We'll be going over IRS Form 4868. This is the application for an automatic extension of time to file your U.S. individual income tax return. There are two parts to this tax form. They're right in front of you on the screen, and we'll go over them. Part one is the identification field, where you'll enter personal information in order for the IRS to recognize who you are. And then in part two, we'll go over the income tax liability that you believe that you're going to have and calculate how much is outstanding, and then go over some IRS guidance related to that. So this is pretty straightforward. We'll just complete this. We'll pretend that our hero, John Doe, is filing this extension. If you had a tax year that is not the same as a calendar year, you would enter your beginning and ending dates up here. For example, fiscal year tax filers would complete this form. Most individuals don't need to do this, as the IRS recognizes most taxpayers, individual taxpayers, are calendar year filers, meaning that your tax year is the same as the calendar year. So we'll pretend that John Doe is filing single. In many of our examples, he does have a wife, but if he was filing with his wife, you would put John and Mary Doe's name on line 1, and then we're going to follow this with his address. So if there's a different address that you want to have the IRS send correspondence to, you should list it on this form. If you have someone that's representing you in front of the IRS, or someone that's acting as your agent, you can put your name and then their name in the name identification field, and then you would list their address. So you can't use this form to change your address. You would need to actually file IRS Form 8822, which is the change of address form. This tax extension, if you put a different address in here, it won't update your tax record. So now if you file your actual tax return with the new address, then that will update your IRS record. But the easy way to make sure that the IRS recognizes your change in address, if this is different from previous year's tax return, would simply to be filing IRS Form 8822. And I'll put the link to that article in our show notes. So John's going to enter his Social Security number. And then if he were filing married, he would enter his wife Mary's Social Security number in line 3. Obviously, he's filing as a single taxpayer in this example. And then in part 2, you're looking to just provide an estimate of your tax liability. A lot of people do tax planning projections with their tax preparer. Some people might use previous year numbers, but like if you're, let's imagine you're an S corporation shareholder and you're a little bit late getting your K1, or if you're in a partnership, or if you're receiving a K1 from someone. This is one of the more common ways that people need to file extensions. You can simply use any tax planning projections or last year's estimates, as adjusted for anything that happened in the current year. You would simply put that estimate here. So let's just say that John believes he's going to owe $15,000. This is based on his calculations. Your total of 2022 tax payment, in this example, tax payments, simply would be your whatever you've paid to date. So this could be estimated payments that you've made on IRS Form 1040 ES. You can make payments through the IRS website, or they could be wage withholdings that your employer has has taken out of your paycheck. So in this case, John believes that his total payments are about $10,000. And in line 6, you would subtract this amount and you would say that this is your tax due. Now, an understanding about your automatic extension is that you get an extension for up to 6 months to file your income tax return. If you owe money, as in this situation, you will start accruing penalties and interest on the unpaid balance, starting with the day after the original due date. So if we'll use April 15th as the textbook example, in that case, interest and penalties would start accruing on April 16th for any unpaid balance. If you're expecting a refund, the IRS isn't going to pay you interest, but you won't have any late payment penalties because you've paid everything in full up to that date. And you can also avoid under withholding penalties with certain, with certain guidelines that are outside the scope of this article. But nominally, anything that's left outstanding after the tax filing deadline will start accruing a failure to pay penalty of 0.5% of the outstanding balance. So if John didn't send any payment with this, then he would start paying 0.5% per month up to a maximum of 25%. Now, if he were not to file an extension, he would be paying a penalty of 5% for failure to file, 5% of the unpaid balance up to a maximum of 25%. So by filing an extension, he automatically avoids the late filing penalty, but there is a late payment penalty that will still apply. And then interest will accrue as calculated within the tax code. So John is going to submit a payment with this. He's going to send a payment of $4,000, recognizing that he still will owe about $1,000 with his tax return. Again, this is probably close enough because this is an estimate. He might pay a little bit on the outstanding balance. However, if he for some reason overpaid, then he'll just simply receive a refund and he won't pay any interest. And this actually doesn't get calculated until your tax return is filed or until the IRS audits your record and estimates your taxes based on the information that they have. Now these two last sections, line 8 and line 9, you're going to check the box here in section 8 if you're deemed to be out of the country and a U.S. citizen or resident. So out of the country means either you live overseas or you are an active duty service member that's currently out of overseas. It does not mean I took a cruise to the Bahamas and I'm here on April 18th, so I'm automatically out of the country. And the reason why this is important is because taxpayers who are deemed to be out of the country by the IRS receive an automatic 2-month extension on their filing and their tax payment. So if April 15th is the normal deadline, then they would automatically receive a deadline extension to June 15th. And then this tax form would allow them an additional 4 months so that the original due date or the extended due date is the same as US-based taxpayers. So you would check this if you live overseas or if you're on active duty because you don't need to pay that full balance for that additional 2 months. You can, your penalties and accrue won't start, your penalties and interest will not start accruing until after that 2-month extension has passed. So John is not out of the country. He lives in Texas. In line 9, you would check this if you file 1040-NR as a non-resident and you did not receive wages as an employee that is subject to U.S. tax withholding. So you don't need to file this. You should not file this if you want the IRS to calculate your tax, or if you're under a court order to file your return by the regular due date. So, and for most taxpayers, the standard extension is for 6 months. There may be extenuating circumstances that would allow the IRS to grant you additional time beyond that 6-month extension, but that is beyond the scope of what can be done using IRS Form 4868. That's all we have in this article. We cover this and a lot more information, such as where to file IRS Form 4868, how to submit payment, how to submit this form either electronically or by mail. And if you want access to all of that information, simply go to our website, teachmepersonalfinance.com, type in IRS Form 4868, and you should see our article pop up. I'll also put a link directly to the article in our show notes, as well as a link to the articles that to the tax forms that are mentioned in this video. So if you like our articles, please subscribe to our newsletter. And if you like our YouTube tutorials, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions or comments, please hit me up in the comment section and I'll do my best to respond. Thank you very much and have a great day.